Are you ready to be inspired? Passionate Lives podcast aims to raise awareness of mental health issues by challenging and inspiring you to live your life with passion. Now here's your host, Tris Reddick.
Hello, and you are listening to passionatelives.com.au. My name is Tris Reddick. Now here at Passionate Lives, the thing that motivates us is talking to people with a passion, and today's guest is no exception. Earlier today I spoke with Lauren2, who has put herself forward for council elections in Kwinana in Western Australia, and Lauren is very passionate about the community work that she does, the garden that she's involved with, and in reducing the suicide rates in the area. I started off by asking her what motivated her to put herself forward for the election.
What's really, really important to me is community connection, and in particular the high suicide rate with disconnection from core values. I've decided to run because I can provide a fresh perspective for the community and for council. I've got a passion for community. I've been here 14 years. I have the ability to critically think, so I can see both sides of a story and try to meet somewhere in the middle. Also been prompted by others to run for my leadership skills.
So what kind of things are you passionate about in Kwinana?
My particular passions are community connection, so making sure that we're getting out there and connecting with the community. It's really important to understand our values, and the way that we can understand that is not just through family, but by getting out there and being amongst people who share the things that we like.
Was there a moment when you thought the only solution is to run for council?
Do I think that's the only solution? Is that what you're saying?
That was your solution to the problems?
In some ways, yes, because I have thoughts about getting a particular job that might make a difference. I'm obviously a youth worker at the moment and been doing that for 11 years, and that makes a difference to a certain extent. But I feel like being able to run for council, by consulting with the community, I can actually help the council make decisions that are community driven.
And what's been your experience on the kind of campaign trail with your community focus?
I've actually found it a really, really interesting experience. So there's only one other candidate with the community background that's similar to mine. A lot of the other people are into commerce, business, law, and although a lot of them say there needs to be that community focus, there's often not that grounding. They don't have that grounding for it and don't really understand which way to go. Unfortunately, some people think that antisocial behaviour should be dealt with in a punitive manner. And I don't personally think that's the way to go. I don't think it's the way to go at all. Other than that, it's been a really, really interesting initiation into the political world, especially when my background is the social world and the community world.
So you've been getting a lot of people sharing your comments on Facebook and a lot of people discussing you in particular because you come across as a bit of a fresh face. And like you said, a lot of the other stuff is corporate sector.
Yep.
Is that something that you found by talking to people?
Do you mean where I've found that people have shared my information and got a bit personal?
Yeah.
Definitely. What I've found so far is there's the very few that have had negative comments are the ones that hide behind a profile picture that is generally their cat or dog, and most likely not even their cat or dog. So then they're not actually out there and willing to show their faces. Most people have been fairly receptive, and the feedback that I've had is that when I'm talking to people, it isn't that staunch approach. It's actually being able to come back and critically think and see their side and see the other side and try to work back to that solution.
So what are the problems that Kwinana faces that you have a real passion to kind of to solve?
Antisocial behaviour is a really big one. And I don't, like I said before, punitive measures don't seem to work. There's been the increase with the change to the City Assist, which has been a really good change.
Yeah.
But increasing those services isn't going to work. I think there needs to be more holistic approaches. And that means linking in with services that are actually able to help and deal with the problem. And the problem's not going to be dealt with overnight. It's going to be a continuous process where people are looked at holistically.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's involving a lot of the community service providers in Kwinana to come up with some solutions.
That's right.
Rather than just fine them or prison or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking to the individual and finding out what solutions they can come up with, because they're the persons who are they're the people who are much better at working out where they need to go and what the issues are in their life.
You mentioned before that one of your passions is suicide.
Yes.
Just talk to me a little bit about that. What's your background in that?
Okay. So for me, growing up, I had stages in my life where I didn't feel the best and I actually had contemplated suicide. I'd never actually taken action or tried to commit suicide. But it was something I've always felt really, really strongly about. Being a youth worker, I've obviously had clients who have made attempts. I've had 2 young people who have completed suicide. And that's really driven, when I've looked at my core values and when it comes to what I want to do in the community, it comes back to that community connection and ensuring that people who are at risk of suicide have that connection. Often they don't have connection to family and friends. It's really, really important to find, those, like I said before, those core values so that you've got something to drive you forward. Yeah. That's really, really important.
So, I mean, the suicide rates are unnecessarily high. I mean, something like 3,000 people suicide in 2015. What would you like to see change?
Certainly, I'd love to see a 0 suicide rate, but certainly see it go down, significantly go down. And by seeing people connect with each other, and I think the really important thing is to be open with each other. If you see someone who's not going too well, talk to them. Not have that sign on your forehead that says, I don't want to talk about this, I don't believe in suicide, any of those kind of negative judgments. Being open to people so that they can talk about it.
And that's the thing at the moment, where suicide is very much an underground thing, and the more we talk about it, hopefully the less people will actually go ahead because they'll have an outlet.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that something that you'd like to see in Kwinana, more kind of suicide information out there? And
absolutely, more suicide training, or prevention training, so that community members are aware of how they can themselves prevent suicide. So not just having to go to a counsellor because someone's feeling down, but being able to talk to your son or daughter, uncle or aunt, whoever it is, being able to recognise the signs and being able to act on it themselves, and if it's needed, going down that further step to making a referral.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that you're very involved in the Kwinana Community Gardens. So just tell me how that started. Okay.
So this is it's called Kwinana Community Share, but we're actually changing our name to Kwinana in Transition, which is a transition town movement based on sustainability principles. So they've been around since 2014. I've been involved since 2015. And for me, because it's right down the road from where I live, for me it was part of that community connection. So I actually go there with my dad and my daughter. So that's kind of a family thing, and that's along the lines of my family values, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And my involvement increased because I obviously had that community and administration background, and a lot of the people there were into permaculture and gardening and really passionate about transition towns, and we had that shared value base but not the shared skill base. So one of the ladies went to go travel over New South Wales, and she kind of set me the challenge to get us incorporated so we can move ahead. By the time she got back in 6 months, so I got that done within 4 months, and
wow.
That's kind of one of those. That's how I work. If someone gives me a challenge, I'll do it. I can try that. So yeah, and it's a really awesome place.
And it's something that people can go. It's every Saturday, is it?
Yeah, every Saturday morning, 9 till 12.
And that's at the
Sloane's Cottage in Leader. Yep. It's an inclusive place, so anyone can go. There's no judgment, nothing at all.
And so that's a good kind of provision for someone that's isolated or have mental health issues, that they can go and just become kind of like a part of a family. Yeah,
absolutely. And it is kind of like a family. It is, it's really nice. And all ages. Yeah.
And how many people do you get down there at the moment?
I'd say any given week about 20. And there's a mix of different people. Not everyone can come on the Saturday. I'm not always there on the Saturday morning. Yeah, so roughly about 20. And we're hoping to expand and do different things. So we've done sewing for sustainability down there, and that's going ahead. And there's lots of other ideas, and anyone's welcome to come down and get involved. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's along the line of the kind of the ABC Act Belong Commit program. Is that right?
Yeah, you could say it's along that premise. The transition towns is more about so understanding that eventually we're going to get to the point where there's peak oil, so we don't have the availability of oil. So getting back to sustainable communities.
Yeah.
So that's the premise.
Awesome. All that kind of stuff along the lines is very much community driven, and is that how you see yourself and your future?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. I'd actually where my real, so not just that, but getting into the consultation process with the community. So if I can say that there's something that's come out of this process for going for council, either way I've learnt some stuff, which is really interesting. And there's a few big things that's come out of it, like community consultation, which, although it does happen, it doesn't always happen in the right realm or the right way. And a lot of people have mentioned transparency, which I totally understand. People get a bit upset when they don't know what's happening with certain things or money. And I think that's really important for council to be transparent, particularly with ratepayers. They want to know where their money's going. And then the last thing that I've started to understand more, and I'd really like to see the city go ahead and do, is do a social impact assessment on the Outer Harbour. They've done the environmental, they understand that economically it's going to be great for us, but how is this going to affect our community sitting on our back doorstep?
And that's something that you would be pushing if you were elected then, yeah?
I'm going to be pushing it no matter what.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And I think I've probably got more power to push it without being elected, if that makes sense. I think it's either way I'll be pushing it, like I said. I think it's a really big thing that we need to look at, that there's going to be issues with buffer zones, there's going to be issues with traffic, the increased traffic that comes through Kwinana, increased people here. Yeah, how do we deal with that, and how do we mitigate anything?
So the election's on Saturday. So how are you going to be spending Saturday evening? You got any plans?
Yeah, the council have actually invited us to the chambers to await the results. So bringing down my immediate family to, and my campaign manager, who's been helping me, thanks Derek, to find out the results. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I think the cut-off is 5 or 6 o'clock Saturday.
Okay. So by then you should know.
Oh, I think maybe an hour or two later. But yeah, I think it's going to be exciting either way, and I think it's going to be exciting to find out who's got in and the future for them as well.
But there seems to be quite a lot of change. I mean, there's a lot of new faces.
There's 17 candidates, and I think the thing that is great about that is you can see that people can see that there needs to be change here. They're passionate about the community, so passionate that they're actually interested in going for council. I think that's really wonderful. And I think at the end of the day, what's going to come out of this is not just that set of councillors that are now going to be in a role where they can make decisions, but those people who have run for council actually have now that shared commitment to the city. You can see there's that shared commitment, and we're going to be great for each other networking wise. I've been really lucky I've met all of the candidates now, and no matter what, they're all passionate in their own sense, which is really awesome.
Yeah. No, so it really sounds quite exciting on Saturday to find out the results.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so it's been great talking to you today, Lauren. And I wish you all the best on Saturday, and hopefully we'll see you more on the council chambers.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Tris. And thanks for the opportunity.
You have been listening to the Passionate Lives podcast with Tris Reddick. For more information on what we do, check out our website at passionatelives.com.au or send us an email to admin@passionatelives.com.au.